Welcome back, Hooligans. My name is Joe. I am joined once again by Ryan, and we're here to bring you just a... I don't even know what to say about this movie. This is a movie I picked. It's called Oldboy. Now, there's a couple different versions out there. I would have preferred to watch the original, I believe, Japanese version of this, but apparently everywhere I looked, it was unavailable. Like on Google, Prime, YouTube, everything that I looked for it, just unavailable. So in order to be able to watch it, we just watched the one I had already seen, which was the Josh Brolin version, which is good and messed up. This is not for the faint of heart kind of movie. It's well, Ryan, you just watched it as well. I assume you had not seen it before. What do you think? What you
I had never seen this before. I don't think I've ever heard of it before, so I had no concept of what I was going into. Oldboy kind of sounded like it could be maybe like a college, like an Animal House type thing, like Oldboy, who knows. And then it came in and it was all black and red and this like dramatic music, and I was like, oh, this isn't going to be a fun one. What is this? And I was right. It was not a fun one.
Really?
It was intensely uncomfortable through the vast majority of the movie. And there's a scene where, well, I don't even want to get into it. Do you see this, what I'm doing with my hands?
Yes, I see it, yes.
Trying to, my hands up, distance myself, like somehow retreat into my chair. That's what I was doing through a good part of the movie. And there's a point where an important character does this. He stands up and does this as he's watching something happen. And yeah, I was like, oh, I feel that. Even they're doing it. It's the same.
I mean, it is a little bit.
That being said, I'm disappointed because I locked on to a Count of Monte Cristo thing like right away, and then they referenced it like right away.
Well, I mean,
Rami Malek
referenced it eventually. I wouldn't say right away.
Well, as soon as I was like, yeah, I'm almost certain that that's what they're going for, then Rami Malek, who's in this movie,
that is who that was, right?
Yeah, sitting at the desk.
Okay. Yep.
He like says something in a crossword puzzle like Edmond Dantes or whatever, and he's like Count of Monte Cristo, and I was like, well, they just acknowledged it, so now I'm not clever anymore. I thought I had something, but it was all a lie. Oh my god.
Yeah, so no, I'm sure we're gonna talk about spoilers in this. Just everybody listening, there's almost no way to talk about it without that, especially the way we talk about things. So just going into it, there's gonna be spoilers.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and just say it's very uncomfortable. It is very engaging. You don't know what's gonna happen. It really sucks you in more than I thought it would. Like, there are movies that are really uncomfortable that are bad, but this was a really uncomfortable movie that was pretty good. Mm-hmm. You may not enjoy exactly what's happening, but the whole journey is remarkable. And yeah, I was just engaged the entire time. I was invested in the characters, and I would recommend you watch it if you're into that kind of thing. If you're into a movie that might be an uncomfortable ride that'll just give you an experience and leave you kind of scratching your head at the end. But if you just want to be purely entertained, you should probably steer clear of it. So it's a watch for a certain type of person.
I'd agree with that. Or if you're a sick friend like me and want your friend to watch this unawares. I mean, that... I believe my buddy and I watched it together years ago, and by the end, we were just like, what the fuck just happened?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, now, I'm curious, were you surprised at the twist at the end?
About how it ends at the very end? Or you mean the main twist of who everybody is?
Yes, that.
Yes, I was very surprised. Okay. I did not see that coming at all.
Yeah, that character, Adrian, I need to look it up. Probably should have already had this ready. You'll just have to edit some shit out. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I want to know this guy's... I forgot Sam Jackson was in it, number one.
Oh my god, yeah. When I saw him, I was like, no. Like, they showed him for just a second in one scene that he's sitting behind this desk. It's like, oh my god. Like, I can't believe it's him. So in one movie from... What year was this? 2013-ish?
I believe so, yeah.
That's when it's set. You have...
2013, correct.
You have Josh Brolin,
mm-hmm.
Elizabeth Olsen, and Sam Jackson. I mean, it's pretty close
And
to an Avengers prequel.
I mean, that's fair. That is fair. And the person who played Adrian, I don't even know if I know how to pronounce this correctly, but Charlton Copley.
Okay.
He's great. The
Yeah,
things
he
I've
is.
seen him in, he was in the new A-Team movie.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Like the things I've seen him in, the roles I've seen him play. He was in Hardcore Henry. He was in a character in that the character of Henry got to deal with and interact with. He's just great. He's just I believe him when he plays a unhinged, crazy, loose guns kind of messed up character. I buy that from him.
Yeah, he was very good. He was very convincing. I liked his body language too. I liked
That he was creepy as hell.
Yeah, I liked his voice. I liked the way he spoke and moved and everything. You know, he's slightly, I don't know. It's an aristocratic sort of thing. The way he moves and the way he speaks. It's slightly I guess just not masculine. You know, not like the opposite of Josh Brolin, who's like this big, tough, like brooding, like, you know, he's Thanos. You know that voice.
Yep.
Versus this guy who has this accent and he speaks kind of lightly and in a very, you know, there's a lot of tone to his voice, and the way he talks is almost sing-songy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I noticed this thing that he does with his hands. He kind of like clasps his fingers together and like folds his hands like this in front of him.
Yes.
And I don't know exactly where I've seen it, but I feel like it was probably an old Dracula movie or maybe Nosferatu when he's in person, you know, because he's playing a count. And there are these behaviors, you know, like aristocratic behaviors. I mean, they're just things. I mean, they're genuinely just signalers to be like, I am part of your class. You know, the clicking the heels together and like German aristocracy, things like that, you know.
Okay.
So I like that he did some of that stuff. You know that he's not a normal person. Like from the first time you see him, it's not just some rich dude. It's like this guy comes from something, and it's true. He does.
Yeah. Huh. So this movie has been on my list for us to watch and record about for a while now. Because I watched it years ago, probably 2014, 2015, somewhere in there. And it's messed up.
It is just real messed up.
It's messed up. The things that go on in this, Josh Brolin, I'll say one thing about him. That man plays a good drunk. Mm-hmm. I bought it. Oh
my God. He made me so uncomfortable. Like, he reminded me of every drunk I've ever encountered on the street in Soulard or just at Fast Eddie's or any place like that. It's like somebody who's just like screaming and running around and
like absolute hammer drunk. Mm-hmm. Not like I am a drunk and I just always have liquor on me, but hammer. He is that guy too.
Yeah,
he's that. But when that guy goes to the next level,
yeah, he's a very in your face kind of person. Mm-hmm. Pretty much all the time, at least towards the beginning of the movie. Yeah, I was so unprepared for this. And the concierge from John Wick was in it as Daniel Newcomb or something like that.
Uh-huh.
Like the guy he's trying to schmooze in the first scene. And
yeah, some advertising thing, I think. He's like an ad person.
The guy's like, yeah, we'll give you a shot. And then he's talking to the guy's wife or girlfriend or whatever afterwards. And he's like, so how about it? Me and you a little. And she's like, what? No. He's like, come on, bullshitter to bullshitter. She's like, you think I did this for you? Like, no, I want to get out of here. You're a creep. And then that guy just like slaps him, like whips him in the face with his hand.
Yeah, he comes up and he's the one who, is like, oh, no, it's okay. Oh, it was a misunderstanding. It was no. I'm a big boy. I can take it. But you disrespected my woman. And he does that. It's like using your hand like a whip.
Yep.
I remember doing that actually to my buddy Jeremiah, who I watched this with. There was a old exercise. They called it an exercise thing for like hand strength. It had a gyroscope and a ball in a ball. So you put this little red string in it and you would pull it. And then if you twisted your hand around, you could get it to go faster and faster. And it was really hard to hold on to. That was the whole point, is it the whole hand-arm workout thing. And it spun inside this blue clearish ball. There's this spinning gyro ball in there, and he got it going, and he stopped it on my neck. And so I just turned, and this was at the height of when I was doing martial arts and things, and I just did that whip right to his nuts. Like, and I legit felt bad when I did it. I my first thought was, because it hurt. I had a mark on my neck for like weeks. So he totally deserved it. But this moment I did it, my brain was like, oh shit, that was too hard. And that's pretty much what Josh Brolin's face felt like. He cracked him good with that. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, actually, that's what I thought of too. It looked like a sack tap just to the face.
And I was surprised. So, okay, this movie is about a man who is not a good person.
Mm-hmm.
And because of things that he has done in his past, somebody wants revenge on him and goes through this whole elaborate plan to get revenge and locks him in a room. Joe, guy's name is Joe Doucette. That's Josh Brolin's character. Locks Joe away in this like apartment room. It's a bathroom, a couch, TV for 20 years. You don't even know how much time has passed up until he's watching something and you find out 5 years.
Yeah, it starts off in 1993, then it's 97, and you see Clinton getting sworn in. Then you see it's 2000 and the ball drop. You see 2006 and the hurricanes.
Oh, actually,
no, you see the Twin Towers. Then you see the hurricanes. Then you see Obama getting sworn in.
Being inaugurated, and that was in 2013. So he gets locked away for this time, and at this point, as the audience, you have no idea what's going on, and it becomes he gets out, and it becomes a story of revenge for Joe. He wants to find out who locked him in there, and goes on this kind of have you ever seen Archer? Rampage! Like, he goes on a rampage to find out why this happened, what happened, who locked him in. I didn't think about this before, but this movie that I always felt like was a revenge flick for this Joe Doucette character, it's really not. This movie isn't about him. This movie is about this Adrian Pierce character and what happened to him and his family more than 20 years ago.
Adrian Price, I think.
Yes, Adrian Price. And it's the journey. Boy, howdy is messed up.
Uh-huh.
There are some...
It definitely has a lot of that.
Brutal moments.
Yeah, it does. And it has a lot of this, like, I don't believe you sort of stuff to it. Like, things that are so far beyond what's possible or believable. Way beyond the suspension of disbelief. You know what I mean? Just the coincidences that are set up and the way that things are supposed to happen, the things that are shown to him, the way he's kept captive. He has these pet mice that he like plays with, and then they're gone the one morning and we don't know what happened.
He catches a mouse and it's like his friend, and this little mouse has some babies, and he's all, oh, don't worry, you just stay here. I won't touch your babies. And then they're gone. Where'd you go? And then, slot opens up. They serve this. Another tray has this cloche. He opens it up, and there's all this steam and steamed mouse and babies. It's just messed up. I thought it was interesting how they kept serving him booze.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. It's like that's a big commitment. I don't know what those little bottles cost, but I can't imagine they're cheap. They're probably not less than $7, and they're giving him at least one or two of those a day for 20 years.
Right.
It's a lot of money. And this is where it gets into, I mean, I get the guy's supposed to be super rich, the guy who locked him up, because we're deep into spoiler territory now. But okay, so he goes through all this stuff. He's locked up. He's alone. He's drunk and angry for like the first 5 years.
Yeah.
Then he sees this program, this like unsolved mysteries crime program, and sees his daughter. And her adopted family. But, before that, he sees that he's been framed for the murder of his wife or his ex-wife. They use material that they gather from him while he's in that room. And, then he sees his daughter. Then he decides to get his life together. He starts instead of using the exercise videos he's seeing for other purposes, he starts following along with them and doing the exercises, and he's watching like martial arts movies and boxing and stuff like that and learning how to fight and like hitting the walls and doing that kind of stuff. And he's doing push-ups and trying to get himself in shape, doing pull-ups on the door frame. And he's also trying to escape. He's like carving out, the grout from around the bricks in the bathroom to try to escape that way. And he's using toothpaste to cover back up. So anytime they come into his room, they can't tell there's anything wrong. Right. And this whole time he's writing letters. Now, anything else he did, they stopped him. But they allow him to write those letters. And so here's the first big thing that I don't buy. He gets finally to the point that he's going to escape. And he's like on his way out. And they start putting in the knockout gas. And he doesn't make it out. He could have, but he stayed to watch something about his daughter on TV.
Yep.
And he starts to leave. He doesn't make it. He wakes up in a Louis Vuitton steamer trunk in the middle of a field with a nice suit, a bag of money, and an iPhone, and God, I don't know what else does he. The bag of letters, the like pillowcase full of letters.
Yep,
that's what it is.
His Wilson. It's his Wilson.
Yeah, because he like bites his hand and gets the blood and draws a face on it, and he cuddles with it. And then he sees the person that first brought him there with the yellow umbrella. Mm-hmm. So the plan, we find out, was that he would be trapped for 20 years. But it also just happened to be that exactly at that time was the day he was going to leave. The day he had figured out how to escape, was ready to escape, and had actually basically gotten out of the building, was like, all right, it's cool. I'm going to go grab my stuff and go. Mm-hmm. Is that a coincidence, or did they just decide that, oh, he's going to get out anyway, let's just do this?
That's a fair question.
I mean, I didn't see these holes like in the moment when I was watching it. It's like, oh, they probably want to let him out on their terms. They don't want him to know exactly where the building is. And maybe that's it. But we do find out later that that's how long he was supposed to be there. Like, they didn't know who the client was that had him locked up. They just knew they were supposed to keep him there for 20 years.
Yeah.
And then let him go.
I thought that it's not even a huge part of the movie, but you come to find out Sam Jackson is the one who's running that whole show. Mm-hmm. He's in charge of Joe being locked up, but he's not just in charge of him. There's multiple people who are being kept in this manner, and that's a scary thought.
Yeah. And it's also unresolved. They never do anything about it.
Absolutely.
It's even something Sam Jackson's character says, like, this place was here long before I was here, and it'll be here long after my tenure's over.
Yeah. How all that comes full circle at the end of the movie was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's hard to talk about it without, like you said, talking through like the spoilers and the points. So,
there's like some of the big ones I don't necessarily want to spoil.
Okay.
If we can help it.
Okay. So basically the big stuff towards the end.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't know, dude. Yeah, I don't even know how to talk about it, honestly.
Yeah, he meets this girl at some sort of outdoor traveling
like medical clinic.
Yes.
And he gets there by he wakes up in the trunk, and there's the woman with the umbrella at the corner of this field, and he starts chasing her. And he like runs up to her in like a football field at a college or a high school and grabs her wrist. College. And she's like, let me go. And this football player comes up and he's like, hey, and just punches him in the face.
Yeah.
Let her go. Like, people in real life don't go 0 to 60 like that. Typically. They'd be like, what's going on here? Is there a problem? And then he just lays waste to them in a biblical way. And it's awesome to watch.
And horrific.
But in The Count of Monte Cristo, he learns what he learns from the people he's with, from who he's with. He didn't know the stuff coming in. Like, we assume that Joe didn't know how to do this stuff going in, but he watched like the Seven Samurai a bunch of times and learned how to do it. Doing it in real life is different than watching it on TV or like shadow boxing, but still, and it's awesome. It is super cool. And you would be tough after going through all the stuff he went through, but still. And then he goes and finds this clinic and he sees the umbrella and it's being held by somebody who's standing in line, but it's not the person he's looking for. And that introduces him to Marie, right?
Mm-hmm. Marie. And she becomes, another main character of this, played by Elizabeth Olsen, who she does a good job. I like Elizabeth Olsen.
Mm-hmm. I like her too.
The way it goes from there's just so many questions you as the audience have watching this. Like, you're still what? Why was he locked up? What happened?
Why'd they
He,
let him go? Why'd they give him this stuff? Why does he have the phone?
and he'll get calls on the phone, but nothing. Just the plays just some tune, and it's a series of clues, kind of a thing. He one thing after another. Like, all they fed him there was from this Chinese place, some dumplings every day for 20 years, and so he goes with her around to a bunch of different. Like, he worked out that the name of this was Dragon something, and so he's going to all these Chinese joints that have the name Dragon in them somewhere. I'm trying all these dumplings, which he can't stand. He hates dumplings. And he's like spitting them out, throwing up, like, until he finds the one. That's the spot.
And he doesn't just like try it and he's like, oh, this is it. He like eats it and then he shoves another one and he ends up looking like a squirrel because he's got all of them in his mouth at the same time. And everybody's just sitting around like, this is okay. This happens sometimes.
I was curious. Do you think that had to do with the fact that because that's all he's eaten for 20 years, he hadn't eaten and he was hungry?
I did wonder that.
Can eat.
I did wonder that when he starts like spitting up the other ones, is it because that's all he's used to? He's like, oh, this doesn't taste like food. I can't eat this. And he just like spits it out or throws it up and he eats those because it's like, this is what I'm used to.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like in the movie and book, Count of Monte Cristo, he slept on this hard slab for so long. When he gets out and he's rich, and they don't find him sleeping in his bed, they find him sleeping on the floor.
Yep.
Because that's what he's used to.
Yep. And since it's me, Green Arrow.
Oh my God.
In the TV show Arrow, he comes back and they find him sleeping on the floor because he's like, I've been on an island for 5 years. Like, the bed feels weird.
I mean,
I always have to bring it back.
I don't even, you know what? God damn it.
But yeah, so he figures that out. And then he figures out from there where these people are. And then he goes on a rampage.
Okay, all right. If you're driving in your SUV and you're going to take your food to this place, do you not notice a guy on a bike following you?
Beastly man with a hammer in an Armani suit riding this weird little delivery bicycle with yellow rails and like a pink centerpiece. Yeah,
yellow and red.
Super weird looking.
Right.
I mean, it's
bright. Like, you're not going to miss it. You really don't know that it followed you all the way to this place? It
was an Escalade. You ever driven an SUV that big? They're kind of hard to see out of sometimes.
I've never driven one that big. I remember a friend of mine his dad had a Suburban.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, you're in the front seat and you turn around, it's like cavernous.
Yep. I've driven Yukons that are like 27, 30 feet long. They're nerve-wracking to drive.
Ooh.
Because it's like, you can't see hardly anything. It's like, I don't know where stuff is.
So that, I mean, one of those things. But yes, he goes in there and he goes on a rampage and it was fun. I felt like whereas when he accosts the football team, I bought that. He hurt them bad. But then he gets to this place where he's been kept, being run by Sam Jackson. And there's a whole scene with that, and it's pretty fun. But as he's being forced to escape this, and there's lots of guys, apparently none of which who have a gun. But whatever, that's a whole different thing. It's one of those one man versus a bunch of guys fight scenes. And I think when I watched it originally, I just really liked it and enjoyed it. But watching it now with a more critical eye, that it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. One man versus that, you lose.
Mm-hmm.
There's no, unless we're talking Navy SEAL versus like a bunch of people out of an office, then maybe. But these guys have bats and pipes, and like he takes a knife away from one of them at one point and is just stabbing a bunch of dudes. And it's fun to watch, but I watched some of that stuff, and when you watch those kind of fight scenes, it's almost hard for me to take anymore when they're not done to the level of other movies that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a movie that I think, the movie Judge Dredd, the new one with Carl Urban, it's based on a movie called The Raid. And it's amazing. And there's fight scenes in there like that it just feel more realistic because they're choreographed better. This isn't, he's turned around like hitting this guy, and the guy behind him like swings but kind of misses, or like hits him across the back with this board that breaks, but he's not really affected by it. You
Yeah,
know,
it was a lot of that. It was basically like watching a
pro
really
wrestling.
bad Batman fight or something where
Oh,
they're just like breaking stuff over him, but with Batman
yeah,
he's armored. Like this guy's just wearing a suit.
yep.
And he gets stabbed in the
It's a
back, and then
nice
he's
suit, but
confronted with like all these dudes. And then the next scene is the door opening. It's basically the same scene out of Serenity, right? Isn't that the movie?
uh,
Because there's a show
I
in the
haven't
movie,
seen that in a long time, but yeah,
and you think River's dead, right? That's the
I
chick's
think so.
name.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
pretty
yeah.
sure
River.
Summer Glau's character,
Uh
and the
huh.
door opens, and she's the only one alive in there. Like
Yep.
it's the same thing. Like the door opens, like one of the gangsters is standing there, but then one of the gangsters is standing there, but then he's like, "Bleh," and spits out some blood and falls over. Yeah,
That that I didn't mind.
no, I don't
Like
mind
that
it. I
we don't
enjoyed it.
see what happens. Like that's fine. You see him, and he comes up against these guys. Like guys got like two samurai swords. There's a bunch of other guys with him, and he still has the knife sticking out of his back. And all of a sudden, that garage door thing or the big elevator that splits right in the middle and goes up and goes down, that opens up. Guy's dead. He's holding a sword. All right, I'm okay with that. But it was the fight before then, which is brutal, and those guys get hurt bad. Like
Yeah.
a hammer is no joke.
No. And then just from this point on in the movie, everything is choreographed and predetermined by the villain, by the guy who had him imprisoned. And he has cameras places that there was no way he would have cameras. Like they stop at some random hotel where they rent this like little cabin, and there's a camera in
Yeah.
there that he can see. It's like I have cameras and I can't get them to work in certain parts of my house when I have time to work on them. And somehow they go to this like little hotel, and immediately Adrian can see them through this camera on like this
Yep.
weird jumbotron that he has in his bedroom. And nobody else in the city that he's in thinks that's weird because he's on like a penthouse that has, it's all glass, and the TV's 15 feet tall too. So everybody in the city can see it. Nobody's like, what's that? Should we be worried about that? Like all the stuff that he sees on that display, like having the daughter kidnapped and all this stuff. Like, it's like, oh, you'll never know my secret plan. I only put it on my jumbotron in front of a giant set of glass windows at the top of a giant building in the middle of a city.
Well, maybe it's like the two-way mirror thing, and it's like mirrored outside, but you don't know it.
No, because when you first see him, you're seeing him from the outside of the building looking in as he's pacing around.
I know. God damn it.
It's a messed up movie, dude. It's
It's
super
messed up.
messed up. There's so much that's messed up about it. There's some scenes that are like really, I don't know, weird and kind of fun. Like when he captures Sam Jackson's character and has him tied to the table with the yarn that he's using to like you see knitting needles in the first scene where you see Samuel Jackson,
Huh?
and he's then tied to the table with that yarn. Like that would take so long. Oh my god!
Takes
Like
so long.
he hits
Oh
him
my
in the
God.
face. It's like you're not knocked out that long. Even if you're
Yeah,
knocked
we
out
talked
and like
about that recently.
if you're dizzy and disoriented, you're not dizzy and disoriented for like the 25 minutes it would have taken him to wrap you up with yarn.
Oh my God.
But
Yeah,
it
and
made
then
it it's so good. It's still
Oh,
so good.
then the scene that it's the reverse of that, where Sam Jackson has him at his mercy,
Mhm.
and then he gets a phone call. Look outside the door, or go to the door. I mean, go to the door. I was a little surprised that was just unresolved. Those two.
Mhm. That they just let it go.
I mean, you could kind of say it was resolved.
He got
based on what
paid
happens
off
at the
for it.
end.
Well, I get it. I get what you mean.
But realistically, not resolved.
Yeah, it's a really messed up story about revenge and taking personal responsibility for the things you've done in your life,
Mm-hmm.
but also things that have been done to somebody else from a messed up perspective. Because Adrian's life is screwed up. The things that he thinks that happened to him that were somebody else's fault, it's really twisted around and convoluted. Like there's a reason somebody is angry enough to do that to him for 20 years and he doesn't know who it is because it's not obvious. Like it's not a normal, like he's not the one to blame.
Yeah.
Like it's what happens is totally not his fault. Like not his deal.
We're talking not Joe's fault.
Right. The guy
I
who was
mean,
locked up and punished. It's really not him that should have that should have had these consequences. But he was the only
part of
one
it
around.
is his fault.
I mean, he was a jerk, but he didn't exactly do the worst part of everything that happened. He kind of triggered something, but
He did. He was the triggering element of how everything went down. And as the little pieces that they find out, a little bit here talks to, and the old headmistress from the school
mm-hmm.
that he went to, they find out that that song that's played is from his prep school that he went to. And talk to the headmistress, and you find some things out, and one clue leads to another. And just the way, like, all of the characters they start out in the movie far apart. Nobody knows anybody, but the way they start to mesh and come together
Mm-hmm.
throughout the course, it's just it's really why I wanted to see the original Japanese version of this.
Mm-hmm.
Because I watched this already, you've watched this now, and I'm intrigued to see how the story's the same, how I'm sure the major twist is going to be the same, how it's different, how they do it differently.
Mm.
But this was, it's just messed up.
It is. It's really uncomfortable. This is not going to be a good episode because it's so hard to talk about. I agree with you that we should leave a considerable amount of it unspoiled, but just being able to predict what would happen, I mean, there's just no way, because you would try to predict that. If you can predict it, you should see help.
Yeah,
Like
okay.
you should talk to somebody about this, because the idea
That's fair.
the idea of what is justice from this guy. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if I had paid more attention, maybe if I was less like, what was that? What? And I was able to think about it more, I would have gotten it. But it's because it's justice from the perspective of somebody who's got a really warped perception of the world.
Yes.
That it's really hard to see coming. I'm sure there's somebody out there who saw something like it coming, but it was so out of left field. There were so few clues to what was going on. I mean,
one of the things I really enjoyed about this, a couple of the scenes, or one of the major scenes in this, when Joe and Marie, they go back to his prep school, which has been locked up, like they sold it off to some major corporation, and it's just been closed. Like all the records, everything's still in there. It's just closed down. So they go back there at night, and he's remembering what happened. They find the file on Adrian, and then that leads to a file on a girl, and he like sees the picture of her, and then that leads into a flashback. And the
I like the way,
flashback,
yeah, I love the way they did the stories in this. Like what happened, and it's whoever's hearing the story and telling the story standing by as it happens around them.
yes, like that's them, the director showing us with the flashback, him describing what happened to her.
Yeah,
About
I really
this is
enjoyed that.
I was this kid and I was drinking and this is what I saw. That was clever, and I liked how they did that, how they showed that versus just straight exposition about it. They showed it that was neat.
I agree. It was really neat. There was a lot that was really well done with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't know what's going on. I'm just nitpicking about all this stuff now because I'm away from it and I had a chance to breathe. Like I only finished watching it maybe 15 minutes before we started recording.
Yeah, me too.
So I was still like very much in shock from what I had seen, because I had no idea what this was even going into it. This was messed up. I wasn't ready. I didn't know how not ready I was.
Yeah, that's kind of how I felt when he and I first watched it. Like we just sat down. Oh, it's this Josh Brolin movie. Oh boy, all right. Looks, because I saw the preview. Looks like some revenge movie. All right, let's watch a revenge movie. He kicks the shit out of some guys, and then we watched it and we're like, oh, what? Why? I don't. Huh? It just. It's gonna mess you up for a little bit.
Yeah. It did remind me of other movies. It reminded me of The Count of Monte Cristo. It reminded me of the Lazarus Project, I think, which is what's the guy's name? Walker from the Fast and Furious movies. Paul Walker. It was a movie starring Paul Walker from, I think, the early 2000s. It has just sort of a similar mystery. Like stuff's going on and you have no idea what's happening or who's behind it or like why any of it's going on or what's real and what's not. It's very much like this. It's kind of about somebody in an environment that's maybe being a little bit controlled or manipulated by someone, not to the extent of being locked in a room, but it's like they're being screwed with.
Got you.
But oh man, super weird. I don't really have much else to say about it. It's just so weird. I I don't want to say watch it because it is a messed up movie, but I also want to be like,
Okay.
you need to watch it and see it for yourself to like experience this and go through it. It's definitely an adult movie. I didn't see what it was rated, but there's a lot of nudity, a lot of violence,
Hardcore violence. It's
Yeah.
gory. Some of the parts are really, really bloody. Not overly so. It's not Ninja Assassin, where it's just
No.
buckets and buckets of blood. But the parts that are pretty brutal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Man, it was a lot to go through. It was a lot to go through, and I like that it surprised me so much. Like, I don't like that I was like, what is happening? And I had my hands up for so much of the movie, like, what's going on? But I like that it surprised me. I like that I never knew what was going on, and I never knew what they were going to find, is what I should say. I like the detective stuff. Like, here are the names. When he's in the room, he's writing down the names of all the people he's done something to. And he's at this little intercom, like, pressing the button. Are you Daniel Newcomb? Are you so-and-so? Whoever you are, like, I'm going to get out of here. He keeps trying to think of who it is. But, okay, the last thing I'll nitpick about is the amount of money spent to keep him locked up for this very improbable and incredibly specific end game. Not to make a Thanos joke here. But, I mean, there's food and booze every day for 20 years. Even when he stops drinking, they're still giving it to him. There is buying the school and shutting it down, which I assume was something Adrian did to, I don't know,
allow him to find it and be able to make the prediction and come up with it. But they didn't say it, but this seems very easily something that he would have done. He was totally messed up enough to do that, and it'd be part of it.
But there was a security guard there. All the stuff that's choreographed in terms of like what he sees in the room and the things that are being produced and the people that are there, and some of the stuff is there just specifically for him to see, and some of it's something else. And it's like, how much of your fortune did you put towards this? How much money do you have?
Well, considering where it goes at the end, I mean, maybe he didn't care.
Yeah, maybe he spent all of it on it because he didn't give a shit.
It was, this is, I mean, for me, I just say this is a watch. Yes, but it's a watch, obviously, kind of like you said, if you want a movie that's a brutal revenge, you don't know what's going to happen, you don't know why things are going on, major messed up, major twist at the end kind of thing, but
kind of multiple twists, like multiple things you wouldn't expect.
Yeah,
really,
to be fair. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it when I watched it the first time. I enjoyed watching it again this time, even with the things that I can nitpick about now more than I did when I was younger and watched it.
Mm-hmm. If I watched it again, I wouldn't be able to help but have like the Inception horn noise that like play like constantly for the last 20 minutes of the movie as things are revealed.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, go on. I interrupted you. Started to say Josh.
Yeah. I like how Josh Brolin's character, Joe, there's growth and change with his character. And that's one thing that I'm trying to look out for in movies with characters nowadays. Are they the same from point A to point B? Mm-hmm. Or are they entirely different by the time they get to the end when the story is finished? And I like that. I think he did a really good job in this movie. He is a great actor, has been for a long time. But it can be hard to pull off a movie that's this messed up and do it well. Mm-hmm. But they did a good job with it.
They did a very good job. And so my final thoughts, I would agree. It's a watch if you're into this kind of thing. And if you're into this kind of an experience, it would be hard to find one that does it better than this. Basically, if you ever said, I would like to watch Liar Liar, but instead of him being saved and reformed by a child's wish, I would like him to get his shit fucked up by Samuel Jackson in a private prison. If that was your wish, this is your movie.
I mean, and you know what? I'd like to say it, Sam Jackson plays a good bad guy.
Oh my God, he's so good in everything he's in. And he's likable. even in this role, he's likable. Like the
I
way
mean,
he moves and talks and the clothes he wears, these ridiculous outfits and stuff like that. Like the jacket
minus,
and the hammer pants and stuff that he was wearing in that scene where they're in her house and
yep.
he gets the go to the door call. Like his
Uh-huh.
outfit, oh my God, just
So minus the lisp that he had in the Kingsman movie
mhm.
is basically the same character. If you throw a lisp on that, he's the same bad guy.
Like a mastermind,
Yes.
kind of. Yeah.
Like that's like this was before, and then something happened. He got hit in the mouth. He got hit really hard in the head, and so then he had the lisp, and he talked like this, and then he becomes the Kingsman mastermind.
You know, I read that he had a lisp as a kid,
Really?
and that's why he did that. Like he chose to do that lisp because I don't remember exactly what it was, but I saw this transcript of an interview where he was saying that he had a lisp like that as a kid, and he felt like it would represent the kind of character who would do the things he was doing better to have it again.
That's great.
Yeah,
He's so-
it's interesting to see why people decide to do what they do.
Mm-hmm.
I still love my favorite fact is still the dude who plays the T-1000, the Liquid Terminator.
Yes.
Like when he was interviewed about his movements and stuff like that, he said that in his mind he imagined that he saw with his ears, which is why when he looks at something he squares his head with it. It makes him look very mechanical, but it's like if I'm going to look at you, I'm going to move my head, my face, and my ears squared on you. Right?
Yep.
It's super creepy, but it's such an interesting decision on how to do that. Or you know, Tom Hardy doing the way he did Bane's voice based off of like a Brazilian boxer from back in the day.
Oh, wow. Okay. So this movie, one thing that surprised me or that I had forgotten about, it's a Spike Lee movie. It says a Spike Lee film.
Yep.
Which is surprising because in most Spike Lee films, it doesn't say a Spike Lee film. What's it say?
I don't know. What does it say?
This is a Spike Lee joint.
Okay.
Well, reading this little bit of trivia about it, his version of the film was about 140 minutes long. Mostly character build-ups, interactions, that kind of thing. But the studio heavily edited it down, cutting about 30 minutes of footage. As a result, he has disowned this movie, and which is why it says a Spike Lee film, not a Spike Lee joint.
Interesting. I noticed it said Spike Lee.
Mm-hmm.
I never noticed the whole joint versus film thing.
I wondered that myself. I'm like, why didn't it say a Spike Lee joint? I almost, when I wrote down in my little notebook about it being, I didn't know, or I'd forgotten that it was a Spike Lee film, I almost wrote a Spike Lee joint because that's, in his movies, that's what it says. And it says Josh Brolin preferred Lee's version. So I'm really kind of wish we got to see that one.
Hashtag
a little disappointing now.
Spike Lee cut.
Yep. And also, another bit of trivia, Elizabeth Olsen did not know the ending of the film until she watched it at the premiere in New York City.
Oh my God.
Right?
Like the kid in The Shining didn't know what he was filming until he saw the movie like as an adult or whatever.
Oh my God.
Well,
she said she'd never been more shocked with anything except maybe the ending of since like The Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
You know, finding out what that was all about.
Wow.
That's insane.
Yeah, it leads to, you know, it makes a lot of the stuff that happens in Infinity War more understandable since they have this history, Josh Brolin and Elizabeth Olsen.
Right?
All right. Well, if you guys would like to reach out to us, if you have any facts you'd like to share, we'd love to hear them. We're on Twitter at MovieHowl. I'm on Twitter at ManPanda, and we have an email at moviehowl@gmail.com. And that's all I've got for this one. I'm going to go try to put it out of my mind, I think.
Scrub, you're going to do a little brain scrub?
Yeah, just a little bit.
I feel you. No, it's all right. Halligans, we hope you've appreciated this one. This is something else. It's really, it's something to watch if you just want to be messed up for a few days afterwards.
Yeah, it's a little different from our last one. If you like Lucky Number 11, but you don't want to understand what's going to happen or be happy with it at the end, this is your movie.
Oh my goodness. All right. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure I've been Joe.
And I've been Ryan, I think, unless there's a twist coming.
There isn't. We're out.
All right. Bye.